Welcome to this month's installment of Brass Chats, brought to you by Monster Oil. What is this? 21 year? Hi everybody. This month we are having a Brass Chats hang on the Lower East Side of Manhattan at Katz's Deli while we interview a man who has 2 degrees from Juilliard. He is the trumpet professor at the Mason Gross School for the Arts at Rutgers University, and he has been principal trumpet of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra since 2001. David Krauss, thank you for hanging with us today.
Thanks for
really
coming to
exciting.
Katz's.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I want to ask you about some of the unique challenges of your job at the Met there. So how big is the hall?
4,000 people, and it's the largest building on the Lincoln Center campus for sure.
Right. So a building that big, I mean, filling up that kind of space as a trumpet player with that many people absorbing the sound, is that something you can kind of let the hall do the work for you, or your first couple weeks there where you're just like, oh my God, what do I do?
It's a big place,
Yeah.
but nobody buying a ticket for the Metropolitan Opera wants the trumpet player to really fill up the hall. I mean, in moments, there's always, and we do play loud, and there are points where the orchestra is the only thing going on, but I think the acoustics are actually really interesting in that it is really big and it is really plush, but it's not echoey. It's not reverberant in any way, because if it was, the singers, it would get lost.
Never hear them, yeah.
It's kind of an intimacy to it, yet there's like this really round sound. So you don't it's clear is what it is.
What's different about being principal trumpet in an opera orchestra versus, what do you need to do differently than principal over at New York Phil?
I don't know, because I've never been principal of the New York Phil, but when we play symphonic music versus opera music, there isn't really a difference in the way I approach things. The repertoire is different, and that shapes how you play the trumpet, really. I mean, if you're going to go in and play Mahler 6, is that the longest Mahler symphony, maybe?
I think it
minutes?
is. I think it's over 100, actually.
Okay.
3 might be 90.
Right.
It's between those two, though.
Okay, so that's like the longest thing. So that's considered like, by the end of that, you're beat, because it's like a whole Mahler symphony, and often that's the only thing on the program. Tonight, that's the first act of what I play. So now, granted, we're not playing, a Mahler's worth of music in one act, but it's spread out. So by the time you hit 10:45 at night, and you're feeling a lot different than you did at 7:30. So the pacing is really different.
Have you ever done a really crappy job one
Yes.
night of pacing yourself trumpet-wise?
Oh.
And by the end of it, you're totally gassed and you think, what do I do?
Turandot is really one of the only operas where I feel like the last page of Mahler 1 or something, that it's just kind of on my face and there's
Right.
nowhere to take it off. It's rare, really, in opera that you have that kind of thing. It's more commonplace that let me give you an example. So the Ring Cycle.
Yep.
So 4 operas.
Sure.
I was going to say the cheapest one. The shortest one is Rheingold at 2.5 hours, no intermission. So that's considered like a great short night.
Yeah.
The longest one is Götterdämmerung, 6 hours long. So when you play the second one, Die Valkyrie, the first act is an hour, I think, maybe longer, an hour and a half. You play the opening. It's this really stormy opening, and it's really great. And the conductor is sweating and spitting and all this stuff. The cellos are going nuts. And then it says in my part, 45 minutes.
So you could just take your watch,
Well,
go do something else.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of leave it at the pit. So, but the thing is, after that 45 minutes, you have the biggest theme in the entire Ring Cycle, which is the sword motive,
theme, yeah.
which is we've done it actually in concert versions in Europe. So I actually have to sit on the stage and sit there for 45 minutes, getting cold,
Right.
doubting myself, getting tired, swelling, it's cold outside, it's hot inside, whatever, to freak out before playing this very basic but very exposed solo that you do not want to chip one note. You want it pristine. So that kind of pacing took a long time to learn.
To get comfortable with.
Yeah. I mean, just to always kind of be at your peak. So that's really more. Opera's like a lot of waiting around and then little moments of like, okay, it's got to sound.
It's go
awesome.
time.
Yeah.
What do you love the most about playing opera?
People ask me, casual friends, because my friends that knew me when I didn't have a job, that aren't musicians, and then I got this job and my life was a lot more stable.
Yeah.
The first thing they say, well, do you even like opera? And I always say, well, I mean, yeah, now. I mean,
now, yeah, right.
But
well, you have to now, of course.
I have to. I'm legally contracted to like opera.
That's right.
I mean, no. All kidding aside, being in a room where there's the best artists from the orchestra and sometimes the conductor to the singers, and you have the best.
You guys hear that?
Props.
Sometimes it
Yeah. Everything from the props department to the wig department to the lighting to the stage managing to the stage direction to the music that you're playing. It's a lot of stuff happening in one room.
Yeah.
Is that more exciting than Egmont Overture? Not necessarily, but there's certainly something to look at.
I want to talk a little bit about your college education. Your bio lists a really cool mix of teachers. There's Bill Vacano, there's Chris Gecker, there's James Pandolfi, and there's Wynton Marcellus. And I'm hoping you can give kind of a short one-word, one-sentence, that kind of thing, synopsis of the most important thing you learned from each teacher.
Who should I just go down the list?
Sure. Vacano.
Just personality. If I had to say one word, and something that he always had. Every story. I'm just going to talk because I really can't talk about him with one sentence.
I understand.
Every story that people have about him and studying with him is about mouthpieces and about transposition. And there's, rightfully so. I mean, he did have a lot of mouthpieces, and he did really believe that, a mouthpiece could really help. And transposition was a huge tool, and it is. And we did that. And we talked mouthpiece, we talked transposition, but I don't know if it was just because he was older when I studied with him, and maybe nicer, and maybe a little bit more
mellowed out.
Maybe, I don't know, because. But our lessons together was just like always talking about style, and I think the one thing the biggest thing I took away from him was from studying with him. I took a lot of other things away from listening to him on records. I have a funny story about that. Is to play with a sense of style and play with personality. And this is back in the day when the New York Philharmonic, with one note, especially from him, I mean, it was no other orchestra.
Yeah.
And that, or that and the Boston Symphony, all these Vienna Philharmonic, all these different orchestras had different sounds, and Vacano was it for New York.
Yeah.
Like it.
All right, so your takeaway was playing with personality and style with him. What about Gecker? What was your big takeaway from him?
To be agile. To
you need that in opera playing. There's a lot of really athletic kind of stuff.
Well, not even necessarily to be. So here's a guy. Chris is a big guy. He played football as a kid, and he was always exercising, always really. And he has this kind of Russian jaw. So he's intimidating, but literally the sweetest, like humble, soft-spoken, sweet guy you've ever met. And so there's something, and that's the way his playing is too. He can play. I've heard him play. I played with him Beethoven 9, and he played it on a B-flat rotary trumpet that I couldn't probably get two notes out of, but he managed to. He'll play Brandenburg twice in a row and then play a Broadway show at night. I mean, he's really a freak of nature, yet not loud and boisterous, not, and so he is a big proponent of being prepared. So his feeling was, if you're gonna play,
How do you like your blintzes, sir? They're great. Good, if
you're gonna play Mahler 5, it starts by low G's on a Clark study, really. So that being agile and being prepared and being thorough in your preparedness.
James Pandolfi. How about him?
Jim is I think I know I made the most progress in my life with him, in lessons with him. I call him Yoda. I tell all my students, like, go to Dagobah and find him. Dagobah is Cape Cod. So you find him, and take lessons with him, because
Is he out there now in Cape Cod?
Yeah.
Took me about 4 tries.
I'd say if I had to sum it up, just backing off. Again, huge guy, especially when I stayed with him. He's a big guy. He's really slimmed down.
Yeah.
But when he was working at the opera and he was third trumpet, just this huge guy, and yet everything he would say, just back off, don't push, small, think, So there was, again, that kind of dichotomy, and so yeah, sound and backing off.
You said when he was working at the opera, was he playing third trumpet while you were principal?
Yeah.
And you were taking lessons from him as when he was third trumpet?
Yeah, it was a little. When I was at Juilliard, at that time there were like 6 or 7 people on the faculty. Everyone from Phil Smith, even Wynton was on there for a while, and
yeah.
I even stayed with a guy named Ed Schroedel, who's passed away. Mel Broyles, Chris. Anyway, so I stayed with several of those, but was babysitting for Pandolfi. He lived across the street on Columbus Avenue. You know that scene in The Godfather? Maybe, I don't know if you're a big Godfather guy, but it's the street, and you hear the trumpet player playing scales, like from the brownstone. Like that was Pandolfi, except it was Zarathustra, and it was scales on occasion, but he lived on the second story, right on Columbus Avenue, close to Lincoln Center. So you'd be walking down or up Columbus, and you would hear him playing. So I would babysit and then grab a lesson once I built up enough babysitting currency.
Nice.
And it ended up being just totally game changer for me. I would not be sitting here now if it wasn't for him, for sure.
What's the exchange rate for babysitting and trumpet lessons? Is it like 3 babysits per lesson?
Yeah, I don't know. We had an equation of some sort. I'm sure whatever it was, he came out on the bum end of it. I'm sure yeah.
So that actually brings us to Wynton, and that was going to be my next question. Of all the people on your teacher, heritage, he kind of fascinates me the most, because as principal, Wynton can do anything on a trumpet. Everyone knows this, right? And he's such a thoughtful guy, such a thoughtful musician. And I find myself wondering a lot about the kind of skills on trumpet that he helped you to develop, or as a musician that he helped you to develop.
Well, I should say he still helps me in that, I see him a couple times a year, and he's always super great to my family, and now he's more involved. When I see him, we talk about my kids more and their development as musicians. But when I was a kid, my parents would take me to the Blue Note whenever he played there, and I would be the one kid there, and we'd be right in the front, and I would, and my mom was always very persistent with, you're going to go talk to him, and this is my son David, he plays the trumpet.
Me too. It was so horrifying.
It was horrifying.
Just like, go talk to him. What's wrong with you? I'm like, what's wrong with you? I don't want to. What, are you serious?
Yeah, but thank God for mothers, right?
Thanks, Mom. I love you.
And so my mom and Dad always took me backstage, and then one day he was like, "Hey, well, why don't you come?" And he still does this to everybody I know. He'll spend time. Wynton.
Yeah.
After a concert, he'll talk to every last person.
He's talked to me before.
So he said, "Yeah, come on to my apartment." I was like, Wow. You're like, you mean the Fortress of Solitude? He's like, no, 2nd Avenue and 18th Street.
Do you live in Antarctica?
Right.
Yeah.
So we went to his apartment, and I remember showing up with nothing, just my trumpet. I was just so excited to meet Wynton Marsalis, and I was 13. And he said, well, what do you want to play? I said, well, I don't know. He said, well, why don't you bring out your Arbenz book? I go, oh, I didn't bring it. It's like, he went downstairs. He lived in a brownstone then. He got his Arbenz book, and I was like, that's Wynton's Arbenz book. Like, that's, like, I was trying to freeze frame every moment. But what did I learn from Wynton? You can't learn trumpet from him, I think. I mean, can Michael Jordan, like, teach you how to jump from the free throw line?
Man, that is exactly what I think about him, because every time I watch him play, I'm simultaneously learning so much, and it's on such a different sphere that I can even comprehend. I'm just like, there's no way I could even.
I don't think.
What am I learning here? Nothing. I'm just like.
Yeah.
Starstruck
If anything, he makes it look so easy that it's almost counterintuitive and bad for you in a way.
Just relax. It'll all come out.
Well, yeah. I mean, the times that I did ask him something technical, the short answer is do this. The long answer is, and which he never said, but he did. He said, well, I practiced for 5 hours a day since I was like 7. And not just 5 hours, like 5 intelligent, smartly put, efficient hours.
Yeah.
And so that met with his unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime talent is good. So, but the stuff that we did work on was musical integrity, I'd say. Like when we worked on Hummel or Hindemith or Mahler or whatever, it was always like, okay, so where is this theme from? And then, if we do the Haydn, for example, I mean, he looks at it first like diagramming sentences when you're in 8th grade or 5th grade or whatever. This is the subject, and this is the is this a question or an answer and a phrase? So phrasing and that kind of thing. The other thing is just how to be an awesome person, because he's just I have no words for how amazing he is and how great he's been to me and my family, and he's just the best.
All right, you teach in the pre-college division at Juilliard. You teach at Rutgers. You're the head brass coach at Boston University Tanglewood Institute. You're around students constantly, right? Mm-hmm. Do you find the challenges that each student faces to be totally exclusive to the individual, or are there some issues that many, or maybe even most students face that you can talk about?
Yeah, I mean,
like, how does the average kid get better at trumpet these days?
I think the longer I teach, the more I say the same things, and I'm not ashamed to say the same things over and over again. I think when I first started teaching, I felt like I had to cover all these different things and do all these different things and say all these different things. And the more I teach, the more I realize that like one or two things really is the root cause of many different problems. So I'd say if I had one thing that, the majority of the time that I'm working on is sound first. You're nothing if you don't sound good, right? So when, for example, like tonight when I listen to the opera singer sing, if they're great, which they probably are, I'm listening to that person's voice, their sound. That's it. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful phrasing, and it doesn't have to be the most thoughtful, and you're just listening to the person's sound, you're listening to them sing, and ultimately that's what you want to do on the trumpet. You just want to sound freaking awesome all the time. And to do that on the trumpet, a lot of times it means, again, the intuitiveness of maybe if you want to play really big, playing, not opening up and playing really big and playing very efficiently to make a beautiful sound. So I'd say backing off is probably the main one of the biggest hurdles that we have as trumpet players.
What about some of your hurdles growing up? Is that one thing that really kind of unlocked the key for you? You know, maybe some David Krauss trumpet obstacles that you something that if you didn't fix it, you would not be.
Do you have enough film in that thing? I'd say that the point, especially when I was studying with Pandolfi, the turnaround point where of being a Juilliard, being an undergraduate, being like the worst one, you know, getting second on the overture every week, going from that to then I remember the first great thing I got to play was Mahler's Seventh Symphony, and that was after a little while studying with Pandolfi, and really the biggest obstacle was everybody would say use more air, and yes, you have to use a lot of air, but I was practicing at Juilliard up until 11 o'clock when the building closed every night, using a lot of air and being completely devastated physically, emotionally every night, because I was in school with guys like Jens Lindemann, who would like triple tongue octaves, you know, with his legs crossed. Mark Niehaus, who was principal in Milwaukee. Mark Inouye, who's a colleague of mine, he's in San Francisco, he's a great player, great guy. All these really great players. I mean, the list goes on and on, like really amazing players who could just play.
Yeah.
And that's really intimidating to walk down the halls when you're having a hard time getting through the opening of Honegger or feeling comfortable at the end of the characteristic study or something, you know. So it really wasn't until I really worked on efficiency. And that's something that Pandolfi really helped me with.
Cool. You've gotten to work with some of the best conductors in history. Tell me about a great or transcendent experience you had where you just kind of looked around you for a second and said, holy crap, I can't believe I'm doing this.
The first time I played with James Levine.
Yeah.
It was a Mozart opera. It was Idomeneo, a lesser known Mozart opera.
I know Idomeneo. It's good.
Yeah?
My wife sang Elia.
Oh, all right, there you go.
In grad school.
Well, the trumpet part has like probably 6 notes in the 3-hour opera. There's like nothing to do. But it was my first time. It was like September of '01 or October probably, and I was sitting there and playing. It was overwhelming, playing with this amazing orchestra, playing Mozart with an amazing orchestra. It was the first time that I really heard Mozart, like just incredible. I was in the middle of it and watching this well-oiled machine run. It was that was insane. That was insane.
All right. Have you ever just totally? You talked about the pressure being on all the time. Have you ever totally missed something at a really important moment during a really important or exposed aria, bad enough that you could tell that it kind of threw a singer off?
No. Here's one thing that almost happened.
Oh.
We were in, like I mentioned, Die Valkyrie before. My first year, I was not tenured. We traveled to Europe. We do all the concert halls in Europe, and we did the Salzburg Festival in Austria. So we're playing Wagner in Austria, James Levine, Placido Domingo. We did the first act of Valkyrie. I had never even rehearsed it, and I'm playing it. I don't know the music at all. I mean, I know the trumpet part, but I don't. Now I can kind of sing the whole thing, and you know it. I didn't know it at all.
The context.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know what was in 4, what was in 2, so we go, and on tour we don't really rehearse things. They do sound checks. We never get to that big call 45 minutes in. So you play the opening, like I said, I'm sitting there, it's cold. I'm like, I just got this gig, right? I'm not there for like more than a couple of months, and we go on tour. And we're in Austria, which is kind of weird for me anyway. And we're sitting there, and I'm holding, and Jim Ross, second trumpet player, was like, leans over and says, you know, your solo's coming up. And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, is it in 2 or in 4? He goes, it's in 2. I go, well, I have no idea where I am. And so the thing comes, it's bum 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 bum. You wait, bum bum, again. You do it like 3 or 4 times, but each time it goes back for 4. I said, and I looked at him. I said, I have no idea what I'm doing. You have. He goes, I'll bring you in. So we're going, and I see him go. And I play the first one, and I'm counting. I'm like 2. Wait, oh, wait, got it. He's in 4. I go, I have no idea what I'm doing again. He goes, I'll bring you in. So he brought me in the whole thing. Now, had I screwed up Wagner in Austria with Placido Domingo and James Levine and the Met Orchestra not being tenured, it wouldn't have been good. It wouldn't have been good. So to this day, I definitely owe Jim Ross.
Perpetual beers.
Yeah.
Anytime you see him, whatever he wants.
Actually, it's written in the part. I owe Jim Ross a beer, and I still haven't paid up. But that was a long time ago.
All right, so that brings us to the Monster Round.
Awesome.
Are you informed of the Monster Round?
I saw Pete's.
Okay, so you're apprised of at least some of the perils.
Rapid fire.
It's rapid fire.
Okay.
You get to answer what you want, and you know, everyone understands it's rapid fire. If I ask you about your favorite something, nobody's gonna
All right.
check the source.
Okay.
So not much pressure,
Okay.
but there's a lot of pressure. So I hope
ready.
you're afraid. All right, here we go, everybody. Monster Round. David Krauss, principal trumpet of the Met. Here we go. Least favorite opera.
Norma.
Highest note you can nail every single day on the trumpet.
C.
Best concert you've ever been to.
That's hard to say. Hearing Wynton live in the third row when he played his Carnival record in Carnegie Hall. That
Cool.
was pretty great.
Favorite conductor.
James Levine.
What's your favorite food?
I mean, come on. I'm in front of one of them. And I can't believe I've only eaten half of it. But
That's
let's
my
keep
fault.
talking.
I owe him one to go or
This
something.
is really sad.
Yeah.
Don't-
What's your favorite non-operatic musical genre?
Non-operatic jazz. Jazz, definitely.
Presidential candidate from the current cycle that you would most like to have a beer with.
Bernie.
What do you think of Mark Gould's characterization of Pete Bond as an ADD gorilla?
You just ruined my sandwich. I agree. I agree.
Good.
I can attest to that. It's actually a very accurate portrayal.
Who was your biggest trumpet influence?
Wynton.
Who would win in a brass section bar brawl? La Scala or the Met?
Where is the brawl? In Italy or here?
Oh,
Because that really makes a big difference.
Katz's Deli.
We would, sure. I know where the back doors are.
Who's your favorite operatic composer?
Strauss.
Is it safe to say that trumpet is your number one skill?
No.
You ruined my question. Okay, what's your number one skill?
Making espresso. I think I'm a better.
You are better at making espresso than playing trumpet?
Absolutely. It's way more consistent. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like that. What opera are you sick of playing? You never have to play it again. You would not shed a tear.
The one I'm playing tonight, Madame Butterfly.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your favorite building in New York City?
Favorite building. Okay. Well, the Ansonia. It's a great apartment building. I've always been obsessed with it.
Favorite place to play the trumpet?
My favorite place to play the trumpet was my parents' kitchen in Long Island. Before they moved, it was all tiled and echoey, and I always sounded like $1 million there.
Love that. Puccini or Rossini?
Puccini.
Would you rather perform the Artunian Concerto in Carnegie Hall
Okay.
with a harmony mute in the whole time, or not play Carnegie Hall at all?
Not play Carnegie Hall.
Would you rather be a millionaire with a mean wife, or be homeless with an amazing supermodel wife?
This is a lose-lose answer. I have a wonderful supermodel wife at home that everybody's happy with, and so,
But you're not homeless.
I'm not homeless. I would be homeless if I answered that question the way you want me to.
Okay, got it. Fair. Would you rather spend all day on a hoverboard, like the new kind?
I bought one for my
Did you
kids.
really?
Yeah.
Would you rather spend all day on that or on a pogo stick?
Hoverboard. It's awesome. Also because my brother, we had a pogo stick when I was a kid. My brother, when we were a very little kid, got his wiener caught in the spring. So to this day, any
Are
pogo
you
stick.
serious?
No, I'm totally serious. So anytime.
That seems like a pretty serious design flaw.
That was, yeah. It was more, yeah.
Who would you rather have babysit your kids, O.J. Simpson or Ozzy Osbourne?
Ozzy, I would think.
David Krauss, thank you so much for spending time with us. This has been awesome.
Yeah,
thank you very much.